It's the Daily Doug.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Daily Doug. Thanks for being with me today as we conclude yet another week on the channel. You have arrived on a Friday, and y'all, I think I have a good one for a Masterpiece Friday today. It involves music by Led Zeppelin, and I am happy that you are joining me. So the song that we are going to take a look at today is called Dazed and Confused, and this came to us from our friend Gremlin's Music. And Gremlin suggested it for our fan favorites series on our Patreon this month, which happens to be our favorite epic songs. And what Gremlin did was put forward an extended version, an extended live version of Dazed and Confused from Led Zeppelin. But our community was split on whether I should hear the live version first or whether I should hear their original studio recording first. And as a result, it didn't quite get the number of votes that it needed to get into my video for our Patreon. But it piqued my curiosity, friends, because I don't think that I have reviewed any of Led Zeppelin's really early classics yet. And it got me thinking, if it's not going to be on our fan favorites, maybe this live version can be something I get to later, but I need to hear, I think, the studio version first. And so I went looking into it, and here's what I found, y'all. It's the fourth song on Led Zeppelin's self-titled studio album. That album was released in January of 1969. But it's a cover, y'all. In fact, it's a cover of a cover. And it all happens in a very short amount of time. From what I read, here's what I think is the concise story about it. It was first released by the American singer-songwriter named Jake Holmes in the summer of 1967 on his debut album. And that summer, Jake was opening for, guess who? The Yardbirds. And at a specific gig in New York City, he opened for the Yardbirds, and the Yardbirds drummer Jim McCarty happened to overhear his set, and he heard Dazed and Confused, and he thought, well, that's a cool song. He went out the very next day, and he bought Holmes's album, and he shared it with his bandmates. And then the Yardbirds, guess what? They liked it. And they reworked the song. They added some additional lyrics. They added some instrumentation. And then they added it to their own live set list. Okay? So it ended up being included on an album called Yardbirds 68, which was a compilation album that was recorded during their last American tour. And as a sidebar, that album, due to several conflicts and disagreements, it wasn't released until 1971. And even then, there were still conflicts and disagreements, and it was withdrawn from the public. And it wasn't re-released until 2017 on Jimmy Page's own personal label. Okay? So by the late summer of 1968, the Yardbirds had then disbanded. And Jimmy needed to find and form a new group. And that's what he did. And they quickly developed their sound because they had to play some concerts as the new Yardbirds because Jimmy was still under contract for some concerts to play in Northern Europe. So the new Yardbirds get together, they'd find their sound, they play a few gigs kind of under the radar, and after they get done with that, they rename themselves Led Zeppelin. And they went into the studio to record their debut album in late September of 1968. And as I read in, they only took about 36 hours of studio time to both record and mix that debut album, which would be released only about 4 months later. And then we have Led Zeppelin in our universe, y'all. So what a fascinating story, right? It's a cover of a cover. Jake Holmes plays it. The Yardbirds hear it and they make it their own. Jimmy Page, once the Yardbirds go under, he says, hey, Led Zeppelin guys, I got a good song for you. We should do this. And so that's what they did. So here's what I'm going to do, friends. I'm going to first listen to the Jake Holmes version, which is shorter. And then I want to take a listen to see and hear the Led Zeppelin original studio recording. So Jake Holmes, it's just a trio. There's no drummer. It's Jake on guitars and vocals, Tim Irwin on guitar, and Rick Randall on the bass. So let's take a look at this first version of Dazed and Confused by Jake Holmes. Off we go. Little acoustic guitar. Cool. Some chromatic descending bass line.
I'm dazed and confused. Is it stay, is it go? Am I being choosed? Well, I'd just like to know. Give me a clue as to where I am at. Feel like a mouse and you act like a cat.
So he's in E minor.
Confused, hanging on by a thread. I'm being abused. I'd be better off dead. I can't stand this tease and I'm starting to crack.
His vocal delivery reminds me a bit of Ian Anderson's delivery.
On the right track.
It sounds to me like a lament, almost, with that chromatically descending bass line. I'm dazed and confused, hanging on by a thread. I'm being abused. I'd be better off dead. Real soft. Like they said, a folk style here, without even any drums. Real simple too. There's the 4. Back to 1. I don't know what they're hitting. It's not a kick drum. It's an interesting little sound that they got going. Before I went into this, I thought Dazed and Confused was just a fun movie from the 1990s. Apparently the movie's title is based on, or comes from, or is inspired by this song.
Yeah, I'm dazed and confused and it's all upside down. My being choose, do you want me around? Secrets are fun to a certain degree, but this one's no fun 'cause the secret's on me.
It's going to stay on E till the end. Interesting. Interesting. Right? So, those of you that know this song, I don't know if you've heard that one before. I haven't heard the Led Zeppelin one or recognized it before, so that's an interesting bit of a first one to hear from. So let's go on to the Led Zeppelin version, shall we? So in the one that we're going to hear, Jimmy Page apparently is playing a Telecaster, and he also, as I read in, makes use of a violin bow to play. So he's holding his guitar, and I guess he's going to, use his left hand like he needs to on the neck, and he's going to bow the The strings, that's an interesting sort of cross of a stringed instrument, because we get violins, of course, and basses and all sorts of stuff that are bowed. It's a different type of attack than with a pick or plucking it with your hand. So I'll be curious to hear what that sounds like. Apparently, Robert Plant adjusted the lyrics even more than what the Yardbirds had done. And so, like I said, it makes this a cover of a cover. And Holmes was never credited as a songwriter on the Led Zeppelin album. And in 2010, he sued the band for copyright infringement. And the suit ended up being settled out of court. And now the songwriting credit is listed as being written by Jimmy Page, but inspired by Jake Holmes. And I don't know. That's a toughie. Jake wrote the song, but if Jimmy and the rest of his bandmates are adding some really hefty length and new instrumentation and new licks and new words and making it really their own, can they really say, though, that Jimmy wrote this? That's tough to me. But I'll get to that later. I want to hear the song. So this is going to be the studio version of Dazed and Confused. It comes from their very first self-titled album. So here is Led Zeppelin with their classic, Dazed and Confused. Off we go. Same key.
Been dazed and confused for so long, it's not true. Wanted a woman, never bargained for you. Lots of people talking, few of them know. Soul of a woman was created below.
I've been critical of Robert Plant's singing. I liked that. That was cool. It's the same chromatic descending pattern. Goes down through the F, and it goes down through a C sharp. Take E minor, and you add raised sixth and flat two, the Phrygian and the Dorian note, and that's what they end up using. That's the 5, back to 1. Woo!
Every day I work so hard, bringing home my heart and pain. Try to love you, baby, but you push me away.
Some people said this was about drug use too. I think it's just about a relationship. It's about a woman, y'all.
Sweet little baby,
Sweet little baby, I want you again. There's the bowing. So that's where those sounds are coming from. Shut up, Robert. I want to hear Jimmy play. Some psychedelic sounds in there, some really interesting effects and echoes and reverb. take us out of the key. Just like the Holmes version, this extended section is just over one chord. It's just over an E chord. Awesome. Awesome. Move back into the slower tempo.
Been dazed and confused for so long it's not true. Won't let a woman never bargain for you. Take it easy, baby, let them say what they will. Don't wax so much when I send you the bill.
Cool. I can see where they would be really successful with this in a live setting. Shut up, Robert. You don't. This is what I don't like about Plant. Just, he's great when he's great, and then he gets in the way. I think. I don't know. I'm getting accustomed to him, though. One of the main reasons why I haven't heard a ton of Led Zeppelin's music is that I was never really a fan of Robert's voice. And so on my own time, I just didn't listen to more of them. And I ended up missing quite a bit from just how good the band was, you know? Guitars and bass and drums. And even Robert is better than I give him credit for. It just was never one of my favorites, so I just never listened to more of it. But I can really see how this becomes one of their long-running staple live songs in their concerts, and that's exactly what happened. It's psychedelic, it's got some blues in it, and it's got some pliability and space for experimentation, for improvisation. And I have seen that some of these live versions of the song were stretched to 15 minutes. The one that was submitted for our fan favorites is 30 minutes. And I read about upwards of 45-minute extended versions of this tune. By the end, I think I would be both dazed and confused. So it's living up to its name. So, Rolling Stone has listed this song as Led Zeppelin's 13th best. There are other songs from this debut album that are also included on their list. The song Good Times, Bad Times is all the way up at number 6. They've got Communication Breakdown at number 12 and Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You at number 25. And, that gets me thinking that I've only heard and listened to Houses of the Holy and Physical Graffiti, both for my Patreon audience. And I've also heard, a few assorted well-known tunes from this group. But now I'm thinking maybe it's time to really dive into some of their earlier stuff. and just kind of go through their discography and learn the band a little bit more. And I know that some of y'all have really wanted me to take a look at this song being played live, but like I said earlier, for this initial reaction, I wanted the history lesson. I wanted to hear the source material. I didn't listen to the Yardbirds version of it because I didn't think we needed to, but I wanted to hear the original, and I wanted to hear the Led Zeppelin version from their first recording. And now that that's done, I think I'm ready for a future listen of an extended live version of this, maybe on a future reaction if y'all would like. Maybe we'll get to some of their early albums over on our Patreon. I'm not sure what'll happen, but I know that I think want to get to some more from Led Zeppelin. Their flair for rhythm and for their riffs is just really intriguing to me, and I groove on it. So I want to get into more of their stuff. But I think that is all for today and all for this week. What a wonderful week of music it has been, and it's been wonderful to finish out with some classic music from Led Zeppelin. I am getting on the Led Zeppelin bandwagon, but like I said, I think that's all for today. So I will see you next time, friends. Thanks, and we will see you next time on another edition of the Daily Doug.
It's the Daily Doug. Welcome to the Daily Doug. The Daily